So in this video, I'm going to show you how I apply some of the textures that I have available in my premium texture pack available on my store onto images to give them a more unique look. This is obviously a picture of a dandelion flower, and I shot this with a Lens Baby composer. It's kind of like a tilt shift effect, but not exactly. With the Lens Baby composer, you can also buy a macro kit, which allows you to get really close, because obviously this flower is the size of a 10-cent coin, so it's not very big. So getting that close is really impossible with a normal lens. So with a macro kit, I was able to get this close and capture some of the details, and anything other than the flower starts to kind of fade away into the background. So it's very nice soft blur, or bokeh as it's called, or bokeh, depends on what your preference is. But anyway, we won't get into that. So the textures that I've picked, let's see. This one here I shot in France, in the city of Lyon. Just walking around, I walked past this wall where the paint was peeling off, and I thought, you know what, this could make a nice texture. So I snapped a few shots. And next one here is, I think I shot this somewhere in Australia, probably in Sydney somewhere. And this is just a concrete pavement with all these cracks and textures in there, which I quite liked. So I snapped another one. And this is from Melbourne. I think this is a sandstone or limestone or something, some kind of stone with a bit of iron particles inside, and you can see the rust because they get wet in the rain. The rust is coming out, so I think that was a nice texture that I wanted to use. So we'll start with this one first. Let's use this texture. So I'm just going to drag this across and onto my image using the Move tool from Photoshop. Drop it there, and that looks good. I think it's a bit too big. So if I zoom out, Command T or Control T, depending on your machine, then I can just resize this, resize it here, and a bit more. Don't have to be exact, you can if you want to be, but it doesn't really bother me, so I'll just apply it like this. Okay, so that's done. Let's zoom back to larger size. That looks nice. So to apply the texture, I usually just use an overlay mode of some kind. Okay. The three key that I use would be hard light, which you can see is very strong. That's why it's called hard light. Soft light, which is a lot softer, and then overlay, which is a little bit harder than the soft light, but not as hard. So in this one, I think I'll go with overlay so far. I might change my mind later on, but at this point, I think I like overlay better. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the texture off the flower. There's too much of the texture applied on top of the flower. So to do that, I'm going to add a layer mask, which is this. And that allows me to show and hide various different portions of the texture. And I'm going to use my brush tool with an opacity of, let's say, 40 or 50%, doesn't matter. And let's increase the brush size here. I've got black selected, so you want to be black in the color selection and white in the background, because white is applying entire texture. So anytime I apply to the mask any black color or gray, it's going to start to slowly remove that texture from that region. So you'll see the effect. As I apply this, you'll see the texture strength kind of goes down and it reduces from the flower. And here I'm going to focus a little bit more and put quite a bit of texture out. Alright, so if I do Alt click, that shows me my mask. So here it's very little of the texture is being applied, a bit more around it, and then obviously 100% of the texture is being applied there. Alt click again to hide the overlay. Okay, so I think I like that so far. Let's bring the next texture in, which is this one. So again, go back to my move tool, drag this across, bring that on top, drop that here. Okay, again, it's quite big, and that will happen. That will happen quite a bit. So Command T. Obviously, these textures were shot with my 7D, so they're like 18 megapixel images. Depending upon what camera or megapixel capacity you're working with, you might have to resize them down or enlarge them to, if you've got a Nikon D800, that's a 36 megapixel. But you'll find even if you enlarge these images, they will work as a texture, because you don't want to see the 100% detail. It's just the effect that we're after. Okay, so zoom back in, apply, let's try overlay or soft light on this one. Oh, nice. I like how it warms up the image a little bit and also gives some orange and burnt feeling to the petals there. Okay, I like that. Again, I'm going to apply some masks to it and go back to my brush tool, and having black selected and my mask selected, you got to make sure that little square brackets are around the mask. If they're here, that means you're actually painting on the texture. So if you go back here, that's the correct way, that's wrong. So if I do that, I'm essentially painting on top of my texture, and you'll see that in the preview in a second. See how that messes up the texture? Command Z, go back to the mask. Let's mask away from the middle here, some of the effect, and just press real, focus on here, and slowly fade that away. Okay, so that was just a mask hiding some of that texture. The other thing you can do is also take the strength, overall strength, out of the texture as well. So that I do that with opacity, which kind of makes it semi-transparent, so partial effect is applied, part of it's not. So let's try that. Yes, I think that's good. It's about 60%. I'm happy with that. Let's go to the next texture here. Again, reduce that down to make it more subtle. What I find is when you're in the thick of it and you're working through it, sometimes you can go a little bit overboard with doing this. So what I urge is take 5 minutes timeout, step away, and then come back and reanalyze your image. What I find happens to me is, yeah, I do tend to go overboard with the strength of the texture, and then when I come back, I think, oh, what have I done? This is not nice at all. And then I go back and fix up the overdone bits and take them down a few notches, in some cases several notches. Alright, so let's see what this texture does. And you can stop here. I think that's a good effect so far. I like the image overall. But you know what, it's just about experimentation. So just take one of the other textures, apply it. If you don't like it, you can just delete that layer. Now, a few things I see wrong here, which I don't want in my final image. This little twig here, I'm just going to take that out using my healing brush. I think it's called spot healing brush, if I'm not wrong in my Photoshop terminology. And just this area here. Don't have to be too picky, but I think that would have interfered with the image, because it would just stand out like a sore thumb. Okay, let's put that on here. Again, same trick, zoom out, Command T, resize the image down to here, down to that. Apply the texture, and let's do hard light. Oh no, that's not good. Don't like that one bit. It's too strong. Let's go with soft light. Not too much. I might like to try and multiply. Sometimes that does good things, but not in this case. What about overlay? No, it's too put my finger on it, but I don't like it. Let's go back to soft light. I think you can see some of the cracks here, which I like here around the image, around the borders, the edges, which is nice. So let's apply a mask to this one and repeat the same process. Take my brush and brush away some of that texture from here. Okay. The other thing I often like to do is sometimes I will turn textures into black and white. Okay, so what I can do here is I can desaturate this layer. Go to image, adjustments, whoops, adjustments, and black and white. Just click OK, and that turns that layer into black and white. And I'm gonna take the second layer as well, turn that into black and white as well. Click OK. Yeah, okay. I think I like that now better, because I don't want the other images adding more color to this photo. The colors that I liked were the yellow, the greens, and some of the blues in the background, which I like. So I think that's good. This one's okay because this texture already has a fair bit of yellow, orange in there. So it actually gives a nice result. It actually makes the image a little bit more warmer. See, if I take that off, it's a bit too blue and cool. I think having the color come through with this texture actually makes the image much more interesting. Anyway, it's all about taste and opinion. So if you liked what you see, be sure to try it out. It's a lot of fun. I quite enjoy doing this and spending a few hours playing around with pictures I've taken. And yeah, if you've purchased the texture pack, then please enjoy the textures there. If you haven't, go check them out. I'll put a link somewhere here in the description of this video, so you can go ahead and check out this 50 textures, 50 of my best textures available for purchase on my store. And yeah, thanks for watching, and see you back soon with some more videos.